All right, so now this is being recorded so you can view it later. I'm already logged into Blackboard here. If you guys log in, if this is the only course you're taking, all that will be listed here is this course, Math for Health Professionals, Spring 2017, blah, blah, blah. Your username is your student ID number. Okay. Your password is the first two digits of your first name. So my first name is Todd, so that would be T-O. And then the first two digits of your last name. So my last name is Hoff. That would be H-O. And then the last four of your social security number. So now there has been a little bit of a glitch in the system. They're supposed to be all lowercase letters. There has been some students have come up this semester with capital for the first letter for their first name and capital for the first letter of their last name. So it might be like that when you go to use it. So at some point between now and Wednesday, I want you to try to log into Blackboard. Schwamigan, are you guys able to hear me yet? Still no? Okay, well, let's keep rolling. So getting into Blackboard, and like I said, if you don't get into Blackboard, it's not a huge deal. There's a lot of helpful stuff out there that'll be useful to you. So if you go into Blackboard, some of the things you will see. First, there's just a little bit of an introductory announcement for you. And then kind of a description of what's out there. Course tools, that's this button right here, will let you go to a spot where you can find my email address. You got to scroll way down to get my email address. Or you can send email to other students at your school through the WITC email system. All of you should have a WITC email address. It is usually your last name and then your first initial and middle initial at mywitc.edu. To get into that, if you go to WITC's webpage, Schwamigan, can you guys hear me now? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Do we have 6 of you there? Yeah. Okay. Good. I don't know what point you came in. All we did was we started kind of going over what your usernames and passwords look like. Your username is just your student ID number. If they haven't given you that yet, ask your advisor there for it, and they should have it for you. Your password is the first 2 letters of your first name. Sometimes the first letter is capitalized, sometimes it's not. First 2 letters of your last name, again, sometimes the first letter is capitalized, sometimes it's not. Then the last 4 digits of your social security number. If you have any problem with that, let us know and we'll help you get it figured out. Your email address is usually your last name, then your first and middle initials, and then at mywitc.edu. So to find that, if you go to WITC's webpage, witc.edu, up on top here are the links to what you need. If you click email, it'll take you to your student email. Again, your username will be your student ID number. Password is what we just discussed. That'll take you to your email. And if you're unsure of what your email address is, up in the top corner, you'll be able to click on your profile. It'll show you your email address. To get to Blackboard, you can see right here there's a Blackboard button on top. That'll take you to the Blackboard site so you can log into Blackboard. Same thing, username is your student ID number and your password is what we just discussed. So in Blackboard, like I said, you'll select this class over on the right side here. And the course tools just gives you email addresses and ways to contact people. My grades will show you your grades. We'll discuss what your grades are going to be based on here in a little bit. Course information. is going to be the most useful button here. This is going to show you a few things. First, it shows you my contact information. So the WITC phone numbers and the extensions. Yep, they can hear us now.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, Liz. So the WITC phone numbers, either one of those will reach WITC, and then my extension to get to my voicemail if you need to. Otherwise, the easiest way to contact me is through email. I realize that's kind of small, so I'm going to rewrite it for you. My email address is todd.hoff@witc.edu. So as an instructor, you can see my email address is set up just a little bit different than yours. Also on this page, you'll see the syllabus. We'll look at that in a minute. You can see my schedule. If you look at that, that tells you when I'm available. I'm not going to open it up. You guys aren't going to be on campus, so stopping by to see me isn't an option. For you guys, contacting me is going to be basically email. There's an assignment schedule here. This assignment schedule is left kind of wide open on purpose. The weeks are kind of laid out, but not set in stone, depending on how much we get through. Especially this first week, usually we don't get through nearly as much. It takes a little bit of time to get all the technology working correctly for us. But you can see our first exam does come up pretty quick. I have about 10 minutes after this class. Yeah, stop at about 12:20. So anyway, you can look at that assignment schedule. If you check them off as you go, at least you know what the next assignments coming up are going to be. Each day usually will have 1 or 2 pages worth of homework. Okay, then down here you see these are homework solutions. These are the solutions to the homework questions in the book. The homework that I assign each day is not graded. You'll have the solutions right here so you can check your own problems, check your own homework. I do that because I don't want you sitting there doing a bunch of homework questions and not knowing whether you've done them right, because then you do a dozen homework questions, and if you're doing them wrong, you've developed a bad habit. So I'd rather have you have the solutions, check them right away, and make sure you're doing them correctly so that you get them right. If you can't get them right, then you stop and ask, and we'll help you figure it out. That way you're not learning the wrong way to do it and have to unlearn it and start over again later. So if your homework isn't graded, that means that your grade in this class is completely based on 5-unit tests. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Also, right now there's nothing down here, but as the course goes on, down below the solutions here is going to be links to the recordings. So the recordings will be posted here as well, so you can go back and view the recorded classes. Yeah, I'll take you to one class from last semester so you can see what they look like. So this is Fall's Math for Health Professionals class, course information. All the same stuff you're seeing, but then down below, here are the links. Sometimes you can click on them and they work. Usually it's easier to highlight them, copy and paste. And it'll take you to my smiling face on YouTube, and of course we gotta wait for their little advertisement so they can pay their bills. And right now I have the volume shut off, but what you'll see is exactly what appears up on your screen from my computer screen with my voice over the top of it. So you can see it's all right there. I don't do that as an excuse to miss class. I do that just so you have an extra resource. I realize there are some days where we're going to go through material pretty quickly, and it might be hard to write everything down that you want to. So I'll give you a chance to go back. Okay, syllabus time. Okay, so I am Todd Hoff. You guys can call me, Mr. Hoff is fine. If you call me Todd, that's okay too. My contact information is the same as I showed you before in Blackboard. Email is definitely the best way to get a hold of me. I have a computer in front of me pretty much every minute that I'm here, so I get email pretty quickly. Our schedule, well, you guys are here, so you know when and where we have to meet. So what is the course about? This course is designed as a basic review of arithmetic and kind of a survey of skills needed in the health occupations. The first unit is just going to be a review of arithmetic and basic algebra. So the first unit might be kind of boring for some of you. It's in here kind of for students, some of the students we have here that are coming back that have been out of high school for a few years and need a little review before we jump in. So we might move through the first unit kind of quickly. But you guys, if there's something that you're stuck on, please let me know, and we have the time to slow down and go over stuff in more detail too. So don't be afraid to stop me if I'm going too fast on some of the, especially on the preliminary stuff. We get into measurement. We do a lot of measurement and conversions. And then we'll get into the dosage calculations, which is kind of the meat and potatoes of the class. Calculating using ratio and proportion. Actually, there's 4 different methods we'll look at for calculating dosage as we go through. Formulas, ratio and proportion, and then just unit conversions or dimensional analysis. And then the end of the last 5 or 6 weeks, we'll look at some algebra skills and graphing skills just to make it, part of that's put in here to make it a college level course. And then we'll spend a couple of weeks on statistics. Statistics right now is becoming more and more important. Most of the health related fields that used to be able to get into with a 1 or 2 year degree are now starting to require bachelor's degrees. I know for nurses, you can get a job with an associate degree in nursing, but most employers are requiring you, once you're hired, to go on for a 4-year degree. By the way, if you're wondering whether you should start out with a 2-year degree or 4-year degree, the pass rate on the state board exams is significantly higher for students that have a 2-year degree than it is for a 4-year degree. So there are good reasons to get the associate degree first and go on to the bachelor's degree second. But anyway, if you go on to that bachelor's degree, almost every college you go to is going to require a statistics course. So we'll spend our last couple of weeks on statistics to give you that preparation for the next step. The textbook, I saw in Schwamigan, they were handing them out, so it looks like you guys all have the right textbook there. Mauston, do you guys have the textbook? Perfect. How about Hurley?
Yes.
Perfect. It's kind of a neat little textbook that focuses right in on the stuff we need for the course and not too much extra. So that's why it's not a big bulky book for you to carry around. For calculators, the scientific calculator is highly recommended. It's not required. However, we do not allow you to use your cell phones for calculators. So if you depend on your cell phone for a calculator, we'll have to figure something else out for you. On our first test that's coming up here in a couple of weeks, the first half of the exam you are not allowed to use your calculator on. So make sure you're able to do some of the hand calculations, at least for that. After that point, you'll be able to use your calculator on every test, everything that we do in the course. So here's a list of our competencies. As we said, the first unit is percents, arithmetic, and basic algebra. Then we deal in the second unit some ratio and proportion and measurement conversions. We do medical dosage calculations. We'll spend 3 or 4 weeks or more on those. Then we have the algebra section, graphing equations, solving equations, and then our analyzing data, the statistics portion. So grades, your grade in here, as I said, is completely based on 5-unit tests. So there are 5 100-point tests throughout the semester. That is what your final grade is based on. Now, they're not what we call high-stakes tests. If you take a test, once I grade it and send it back to you, you can redo the problems you got wrong and send those back to me. Whether you redo them and give them to whoever your contact person is there to rescan and email back to me, or if you just send me an email saying, you know, I had number 2 wrong, the correct answer is, the correct way to do it would be this. When you're on the test themselves, except for the parts where you can't use the calculator, I don't mark them wrong if you don't show your work. But if you do those corrections, if you redo the problems and turn them back in to get partial points back, I do require you to show your work. And if you redo those questions and send them back to me, I will give you up to half of your points back. So let's say you struggle with one test and you get a 70% on it. If you redo all the problems you got wrong and send them back and get them all right, I'll take that 70% up to an 85%. And I encourage you, if you have some questions on the test that you don't know how to do, work with your classmates or ask me in class. I'm more than happy to take the time to go over those with you. There's two reasons why I do it. Is one, I believe if you did it wrong, it's important for you to see how to do it correctly. And second, I want you, if you're going to keep these materials going forward to look at later, I want to make sure everybody has at least the correct answer and the correct process down in their notes somewhere. Our grading scale here might be a little different than your high school grading scale. Our A's are 93 and up. Technically 92.5 if you go with the round off. B's are 85 and up. C's go down to 78 and up. And then D's go down to 70. Again, if you're looking at round off, technically 69.5 is the bottom of the D's. So that might be a little different than what you're used to for your high school grading scale. For this course, we don't usually have too many people that struggle with the grades. People usually do pretty well. Like I said, about half the course is going to be kind of a review of high school stuff for you anyway. And withdrawals and dropping, that'll be handled through your high school, so I don't really need to go through that. Policies, well, the standard ones, don't cheat, don't copy, stuff like that. If you have any needs, please let me know if there's anything, whether it's a diagnosed disability or just something I can do to make it easier for you in the course. If it's slowing down and giving more problem examples or whatever. Usually what I like to do is I'll lecture and we'll go over some stuff, and I will stop. After I've done a couple of examples, I will stop and give you examples to work on. Give you a minute, maybe 2 minutes, depending on how complicated the example is. That way it gives you a chance to try the problems and see if you really do understand them. I found teaching math that a lot of times it's easy to watch the instructor and think you understand what's going on, only to go home later and try to do it on your own and it doesn't make any sense. So I try to do that quite a bit in class for you. So please take advantage of that time. I've had some groups in the past where that becomes social time, so I just stop doing it. And usually those groups, you can see a major difference in their performance by the end of the semester. So just a little advice for you on that. So anything you need, like I said, any accommodations we can give you, let me know. For tests, I always allow extra time on tests. If you don't finish it in a class period, I usually allow up to 2 hours total time on the test. Our class period here is like 46 minutes or something like that. So you do have up to an hour and 15 minutes past our class time to work on tests if you need to. And anything else that you need, just let me know. Usually we can figure something out if you struggle with stuff. So the podcasts and videos, this is just the same warning. The classes are recorded, and they are posted on YouTube, as I showed you, so they're out there for the public to see. You guys won't appear on them. All that you'll see is my computer screen and my voice. But just a little warning, don't say anything in class that you don't want other people to hear. And if there's something, if you do need to ask me something you don't want it recorded, just let me know and I can pause the recording too, so that we can discuss whatever you need to discuss. There's our 5 units. Like I said, arithmetic, percents, algebra, measurement and conversions, dosage, graphing, and statistics. Any questions on procedures and stuff for the course? Okay. So like I said, the Blackboard is really handy, but you're not required to use it if you don't want to. But that is where your grades are going to show up. Hit the My Grades tab and your test scores. You can see I got them already test 1 through 5 out there. So as you complete the test, they will show up there. There'll be a running total. Be careful not to get too excited about the weighted average, because it'll show you after the first test, if you get a perfect score, it's only going to show 20%, because that's only 20% of the class. So anyway, if any questions come up as we get rolling along here, just let me know. Okay, so as you can see, the beginning of this course is pretty simple concepts. So I want to start off by going through some things. Why is it that we would cover these basic concepts when most of you already know them? Well, part of the reason is there are some small connections between concepts that are made at the basic level that many people miss or have never been shown. And if you don't understand those, it makes it much more difficult when you get up to the more advanced level of concepts. So for example, one concept, probably the simplest concept in math, but also one of the most misunderstood, is the concept of a number. What is a number? Well, if I put a 4 up here, if you give me a show of hands, if you raise your hand, how many of you would say that that is a number? You're a little gun shy right now because you know there's a trick to it, right? Most people would say that 4 is a number. But really, it is a numeral. It is just showing an amount. To truly be a number, it has to show us not only an amount, but of what? So maybe I call it 4 cows. So now I have the amount, the 4, which I'm going to refer to as the count. It tells us how many. And then what it is we have 4 of, the cows, which I'm going to refer to as the name. So I know not only know how many, but I know of what at this point. Now I'm not doing it because I'm one of those instructors that requires you to label everything or it's wrong. That's not my purpose here. However, especially when we're doing dosage calculations and stuff, it is important to label your answers in medical math. But the main reason I'm showing you that count and name is because I want to show you how those two things work now with our most basic math operations. So let's take a look at addition and multiplication. Now you might be wondering, where did subtraction go? What about division? Well, addition and multiplication are really the only two basic operations. Subtraction is a byproduct of addition. It's just addition done in reverse. So anything that we put out here as a rule for addition, it also applies to subtraction. And the same with multiplication and division. Division is just multiplication done in reverse. So they're really one operation, just different directions. So let's take a look at an addition problem. Let's do inches. Let's do 4 inches plus 7 inches. What do I get? Not everybody at once. Just go ahead and speak up. 11 inches. There we go. So let's see what happens with our count and our name. Our counts, we had the 4 and the 7. Those combined to make 11. So we combined our counts. And since we're adding, we combined them with addition. Now for the names, inches and inches stayed inches. So what happened here is we keep the same name. What can I do for you? So when we add or subtract numbers, we combine the counts, and then we just keep the same name. When we multiply 4 inches times 7 inches, what do we get there? Well, 4 times 7 is 28 what? Careful. Inches squared, or square inches. If you think about it, if we're multiplying two lengths like that, chances are it's 4 inches by 7 inches, and we're multiplying to find an area. So when we multiply numbers, let's look at the counts. 4 and 7 became 28. So we still combine the counts. Because we're multiplying, we combine them with multiplication now. The difference is in the names. Inches and inches, bless you. Inches and inches became square inches. So we also combine the names. Now you might be looking at it and say, that's a very tiny difference, and why is it important? Well, it's important for a lot of ways. All the special rules we've learned for other forms of numbers come from this very tiny little difference here. And I'll show you some of that in just a minute. Also, these two little concepts of combining, keeping the same name when we add or subtract, and combining the names when we multiply or divide, help us determine what numbers we can even use in each operation. For example, let's go back to cows again. Let's say I have 4 cows plus 2 boys. Do I get 6 cowboys? Not really, right? Or if I do it the other way around, 2 boys plus 4 cows, do I get 6 boy cows? No, it don't work. Anybody with a farming background? A couple of you? So you'll be able to tell me that there is a whole bunch of bull, right? Okay, I know, a long way to go for a joke, but there's a point behind it. The point is here I cannot add cows and boys because when I add numbers, I'm going to keep the same name. That implies that I have to start with the same name. So on a little bit more of a practical note, if I wanted to add 5 feet plus 2 pounds, what I'm going to get is simply 5 feet and 2 pounds. Because those don't have the same name, I cannot combine those with addition and subtraction. However, if I'm multiplying 5 feet times 2 pounds, I'm going to combine the counts. 2 times 5 is 10. And then I'm going to also combine the names. Feet times pounds are just foot-pounds. It's a unit of torque. In fact, in the medical field, it's used for joint replacement and rehabilitation, the pressure on joints and stuff like that. So when we multiply, because we're going to also combine the names, we do not have to start with the same name. So let's look at some of our other forms of numbers and see how that fits in. Let's start with everybody's favorite type of number, fractions. I know, I heard that. I realize if I asked people on the way in the door what they hated most about math, 4 out of 5 students would say fractions. The other one would usually say the teacher. So anyway, a little review, what's the top number called? Numerator, very good. And the bottom number is the denominator. Cool. Well, what does it mean to numerate? Well, every 10 years, our government sends out people to do the census to numerate the population. What are they doing? They're counting. Denominator? Well, we have different denominations of money, different denominations of organizations. To denominate means to classify or to give a name. So when people look at fractions, a lot of people see 2 separate numbers. It's really one number with 2 different pieces. We have 3 of something. Instead of having 3 inches or 3 cows, we have sevenths. And when we go to work with fractions, they're going to work the exact same way. 3 sevenths plus 2 sevenths. Somewhere around 3rd or 4th grade, when you first started working with fractions, that teacher told us that to add or subtract fractions, you must have common denominator. Good, same name. That's not a special rule for fractions. Anytime we add numbers, we must have the same name. And when we add numbers, you combine the numerators. 3 plus 2 is 5. Then you keep that common denominator. Again, that's not a new rule for fractions. Anytime we add numbers, you combine the counts and you keep the same name. So then if we have something like 1/4 plus 3/5, can we add those the way they're written? No, right now they have different names, so we'll have to change their names. If we're multiplying, however, 3 sevenths times 2 sevenths, we were taught to just multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. You multiply the numerators. Then you do the denominators. 7 times 7 is 49. Again, that's not a special process for fractions. Anytime we add numbers, you combine the counts, and then you also combine the names. And if we have our 1/4 and 3/5, when we multiply, we do not need the same name. So in fractions, that means we do not need a common denominator. You're just going to multiply the counts. 1 times 3 is 3. And also multiply the names. 4 times 5 is 20. Let's look at decimals quick. 0.21, the technical way of pronouncing that would be 21 what? Hundredths. There we go. So let's say I'm going to go add 0.21 plus 0.3. Is this going to work like this? No. What do I have to do? What's that? I have to line up the decimal points. Very good. I heard someone say put a 0 after the 3. That's actually very good too. We've always been taught that when you add or subtract decimals, you have to line up the decimal points. Why? Because this is 21 hundredths. This is 3/10ths. If you put a 0 in there, it becomes 30 hundredths. Now they have the same name. Now the decimal points line up. You add them, 21 and 31 make 51. What do we do to the decimal point? We bring it straight down, because when we add numbers, we keep the same name. 21 hundredths plus 30 hundredths has to be 51 hundredths. Bringing the decimal point straight down is just keeping the same name. When we multiply, however, you'll notice I'm not worried about lining up the decimal points because I don't need the same name. 21 times 3 is 63. Where is my decimal point going to go? Is it going to go right here? Nope. I have to add a 0 there. Why do I have to add a 0 there? Well, what have you been taught? Perfect. You count in the problem. There's 1, 2, 3 decimal places in the problem. So you start at the back of the number. There has to be 1, 2, 3 total decimal places in your answer. And the reason for that is this is 21 hundredths. This is 3/10ths. When we multiply, 21 times 3 is 63, but we also combine the names. Hundredths times tenths is thousandths. So when we're counting those decimal places and putting that many places in our answer, all we're doing is combining the names. The same is going to go for algebraic numbers. 3x plus 5x is 8x. We have to keep the same name. 3x times 5x is 15x squared. We have to combine the names when we multiply. 5x plus 2y, well, we can't combine those because they don't have the same name. 5x times 2y, though, is going to become 10xy. Just like having our feet times pounds becomes foot pounds, x times y becomes xy. Okay, I see you guys just got cut off, so I'll have the recording posted out there for you, and we'll see you on Wednesday.